Here we go!
So, to everybody who went to my Sonic Collection leak video and was like, this is totally fake, dude. That take aged pretty well, didn't it? This ain't fake, dude. It's for real. Sonic 3 is back, baby! After what, well over 10 years without a re-release? Talk about a broken record, Sonic, but then again, you always were known for setting those kinds of records. What is up, everyone? This is GamerBlank90, proud chief of the Blue Blurs, presenting you with a Sonic news video. No, Sega hasn't made any more announcements regarding Sonic, not since the Sonic Central Direct in May, but I'm classing this as a Sonic news video because reasons. So, excuse me, do y'all have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior, Sonic 3? Wait a minute, you might be asking. Are you talking about that game that had that one barrel I couldn't get past as a kid when I got to that one stage? Or that game where Sonic's biggest talent was making you go blind because he had a super form that shone with every color of the rainbow? Yeah, that's the game that I'm talking about. But I promise you, that Sonic 3 is known for a variety of reasons that are way better than those you just outlined. So the second reason does kind of fall into that category because of what it ties into. It was something I've actually wanted to discuss ever since Sonic Central happened, but of course we all got lost in the hype over Sonic Colors Ultimate and Sonic Rangers, the new Sonic game coming out in 2022. But in the midst of all of that, one thing went largely overlooked, and that is the return of Sonic 3. If you're not aware of where this is going yet, I am talking about the collection title Sonic Origins. It will release alongside Sonic Rangers next year, and as a collection title, it will come with all of the beloved Genesis classics for Sonic. Well, not all of them. There was quite a multitude of Sonic games released for Genesis. We're mainly talking about his flagship titles that got him on the map in the first place. Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And according to Sega, each of these games will have new content and features added in. Exactly what they're adding in though, they never elaborated. It kinda looked like the announcement itself was kind of rushed out the door when Sonic Central happened, because they didn't have any actual footage from Sonic Origins itself to show off. They just provided placeholder footage using the Retro Engine remake of Sonic 1, 2, and CD, and then the original 4:3 aspect ratio footage of Sonic 3 and Knuckles as it was seen on the Sega Genesis. This understandably raised concerns about whether or not Sonic 3 will be given the widescreen treatment as well, but later on, it was confirmed that it would be widescreen like the rest of the collection. By now I'm sure you guys are going like, yeah man, we already know about this. It's not like it's the first time they re-released these classics anyway, so what's the big deal here? If that is your reaction, then let me say that this is a bigger deal for more reasons than you're realizing. We haven't actually had a compilation title of any kind for Sonic since the year 2010, when the Sonic Classics collection, which included all the flagship Genesis titles for Sonic, came out from the Nintendo DS. That means that it's been well over a decade since we got a collection title. We had an occasional re-release on Steam sprinkled here and there, but not a full-on collection title. So they're more or less bringing back the concept of Sonic collections from the dead to kick off a decade. Is that not a big enough deal for you guys yet? No? Okay then, try this. Throughout the last decade, the Sonic classics have been getting re-released in various ways. We've got Retro Engine remakes for Sonic 1, 2, and CD on mobile, and in the case of CD, it got a similar version on Steam as well. Sonic 1 and 2 have also been re-released with Nintendo 3DS as 3D titles, and I don't mean like 3D gameplay, I mean like call Sonic 1 3D and Sonic 2 3D, because the 3DS came with an option to add in a 3D effect to the screens themselves, which I didn't really find the appeal in, so make of that whatever you want to. And they were re-released again as Sega Ages titles on the Nintendo Switch, but that time they used emulation rather than the Retro Engine remakes that were provided by the man himself, Christian Whitehead, It's a complete mystery to me as to why exactly they decided to defer to emulation instead of just following the template for the Retro Engine remakes when it came to the Sega Ages version of Sonic 1 and 2, which by the way were developed by M2, for those of you wondering. But when you think about it, other than with CD, Sonic 1 and 2's mobile versions never got re-released anywhere, not on Steam, not for consoles, nothing. Which was baffling considering the wide variety of content they offered in the first place. They were dramatic improvements over the original as it stood, so what the heck? However, while the Sega Ages titles used emulation, they did add in additional options, including the ability to recreate the original experience of playing games on the Sega Genesis. For example, you could add scan lines to your display, making you feel like you were playing on an old school TV set where you had to have the channel set to 3 before you could play any games. Kids today will never know that struggle. But knowing this, that may well be their reasoning for deferring to emulation, so they could add in a variety of features that would faithfully recreate the experience of playing games on the Sega Genesis on an old school TV. And honestly, I can appreciate the sentiment. But all that said, I still would have preferred for the 2013 remasters of Sonic 1 and 2, along with the Steam version of CD, to be re-released for the Switch, along with all of the consoles while they're at it, cause why not go the extra mile? But hey, for as long as I can play any of the Sonic classics while traveling, good enough for me. Now then, I want to ask you guys a very important question. While we were on the subject of re-releases, you might have noticed that one particular game was absent from that discussion. That game is Sonic 3, the kingpin of the classic Sonic titles. Whenever you ask a Sonic fan what their favorite Sonic game is, whether it be from the classic era or in general, there's a pretty good chance that their answer is going to be Sonic 3. And it's not hard to see why. For a game that was released as far back as 1994, it was considered to be the pinnacle of the 2D classic Sonic formula. It's like when a kid studies up for a test, goes to school the next day, and then comes back with a perfect test score, making his or her parents proud. In this case, Sega studied up on their homework that they'd been given after making Sonic 1, 2, and CD, to realize where the games excelled and where they faltered. Then it went to a laboratory, worked on Sonic 3, and the end result was a game that seemed near flawless. The level design? Impeccable. The physics? Free flow. The amount of content available upon release? Plentiful. The story told without the need for dialogue? Top notch. Like, when it came to the Sonic Genesis games, you straight up could not get any better than what Sonic 3 allowed for. So knowing that, we should have gotten our Sonic 4 well over 2 decades ago instead of the one we got now, and well, they gave us Sonic 3D Blast instead. And don't misunderstand me, I actually like 3D Blast a lot. But still, it made no sense that for as successful as the Sonic formula was up until Sonic 3, they couldn't have continued with it. But then, Sega always did have an affinity for trying something new, and to be honest, I'm grateful for it, because if they hadn't been willing to delve into new territory, we might not have gotten Sonic Adventure in the first place. Imagine that. Oh, and dare I forget to mention that Sonic 3 is seriously the only game in the lineup to boast of these two accomplishments. The first of those is that the game had to be split into two, so that Sonic 3 was made as a traditional Genesis cartridge, and Sonic & Knuckles became a lock-on cartridge that you could connect to Sonic 3 to get the complete game, or to Sonic 2 to play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. Connected to any other game, and you instead get access to a seemingly infinite supply of Blue Sphere special stages. And who doesn't love Blue Spheres? Also, it could just be me, but there's something mildly unsettling about the sight of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman staring at you from within the dark, while the message, "No way, no way," rolls across the top of the screen. No, really, I get the shivers looking at that. Perhaps I shouldn't really call the lock-on cartridge an achievement, considering that it was the byproduct of Sega's yearly release schedule. Once upon a time, Sega wasn't nearly so reserved with the release schedule like they are now, not that I'm faulting them for it. Back then, you couldn't go a year or two without having something to look forward to for Sonic, and it was definitely no different with the beginning of the classic era. But when it became clear that the initial deadline for Sonic 3 would not be met, in part because of the game being so big that it simply could not fit onto a single cartridge. They chose to split it, resulting in the creation of a lock-on cartridge, Sonic and Knuckles, also known as the only lock-on cartridge in the history of the Sega Genesis, because it wasn't initially something that was going to exist then, so they were never going to take that concept and run with it to make lock-on cartridges for more games. Would have been cool if they did though. But to those of you stirring up the age-old debate as to whether or not Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles are different games, stop it. They're the same game, just with different content. So in my eyes, if you talk about Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, you're talking about Sonic 3. But anyway, it's funny how I got so carried away talking about the lock-on cartridge without even touching upon the other big draw to Sonic 3. Hyper Sonic. The concept of Super Sonic was born in Sonic 2, and naturally it would carry over to Sonic 3. But, provided the player was expertly skilled with special stages, they could take it a step further by collecting the Super Emeralds in the Sonic and Knuckles segment of Sonic 3. Should they succeed, they would unlock Sonic's strongest level of power yet, and that was Hyper Sonic. Super Sonic came with increased speed, better jumps, and invincibility to everything that didn't involve drowning, being crushed, or going off screen. But with Hyper Sonic, that invincibility was taken up a notch as he actually could not drown, which is a little known fact. Being crushed or going off screen, however, different stories entirely. Oh wait, it gets better. Hyper Sonic comes with a double jump that immediately destroys all enemies on the screen upon being used. And I mean all of them. Easily one of the most broken abilities Sonic could have ever had. Let's not forget that this is tied to a double jump as well. This can allow you to get to areas you otherwise would not be able to reach, even with the benefits of the increased jump arc as Super or Hyper Sonic. And to put the cherry on top, Hyper Sonic can fly, but only during the Doomsday Zone, which is the very last stage in the entire game. Boo! But as was said earlier, Hyper Sonic was exclusive to Sonic 3. We never saw him again after that game. Something to do with Sega wanting to avoid too many similarities to the Dragon Ball franchise. But you know, those were kind of already there ever since the Chaos Emeralds were up to 7 and the Super Sonic form was introduced. And besides, I don't think anyone minded the similarities all that much. If anything, I'd say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Though Metal Sonic and Shadow probably would not agree with that statement. There's a ton of other reasons why Sonic 3 is so loved, but chances are, you know what all of those are already. And all of this is without touching upon the new addition to the lineup at the time of Sonic 3, Knuckles the Echidna. This guy could glide, he could break walls effortlessly, and he could climb. Definitely a game changer for the classic Sonic formula. Oh, and contrary to what Sonic Adventure suggests, he does chuckle. But knowing all of this, it is beyond outrageous that Sonic 3 was shunned to the side while its sibling titles got re-released, ported, or what have you. Matter of fact, its last known re-release was as a Steam port in the year 2011. And ever since then, Sonic 3 was left in limbo for 10 long, agonizing years with no end in sight. It's even been said that Christian Whitehead was working on a mobile remaster of Sonic 3, just like what he did for Sonic 1, 2, and CD, but that never materialized. So it must be asked, what the heck happened? And the answer to that question is, Michael Jackson happened. Halfway through the first decade of the current millennia, it was revealed by Roger Hector, who'd overseen the development of Sonic 3, that Michael Jackson had been brought on by Sega to help make the music for Sonic 3. He was known to be a Sonic fan at the time. There's even footage of him going around playing Sonic 2. And he previously collaborated with Sega in a 1990 arcade game called, funnily enough, Moonwalker. It almost like the stars had aligned for that collaboration, because one of Michael Jackson's signature dance moves is the moonwalk, although it was initially taught to him by Jeffrey Daniel, a member of the R&B group known as Shalamar, and it was originally known as the Backslide. Then it got rebranded as the Moonwalk. For years since Sonic 3's release, suspicion over Michael Jackson's involvement with Sega had always run high, as those who were treated to samples of the soundtrack for Carnival Night, Ice Cap, Launch Base, and the credits theme for standalone Sonic 3 could hear samples of Michael Jackson's style amid the music. And then eventually, the rumors of Jackson's involvement were confirmed to be accurate. Now, this has been a tricky story to navigate as it appears to largely be a case of he said, she said, but from what I've been able to understand of it, Jackson chose to remain uncredited for his musical contributions to Sonic 3 because of his dissatisfaction with how the soundtrack was reproduced through the audio chip for the Sega Genesis. After all, though it was considered a breakthrough for gaming technology at the time, it wasn't exactly the most advanced thing in the world. It had its share of limitations to contend with. So the whole story about Jackson being so dissatisfied that he chose to remain uncredited is very believable. However, what likely played a greater part in Jackson distancing himself from the project is that at the time, he'd been faced with serious allegations while working on the music for Sega. I don't really like talking about that sort of stuff on here, so I'm not going to get into any of the details on what exactly those allegations consisted of. Suffice it to say, they were serious enough that Sega obviously would not see any benefit in maintaining any sort of contact with Jackson. The allegations forced a huge change of plan in Sega's approach to the soundtrack for Sonic 3, including a last-minute reworking, although it mostly remained intact, so the reworks obviously were not drastic enough. Unfortunately, when 2009 rolled around, Michael Jackson tragically passed away, and though I can only take a guess at what happened after, it's pretty safe to say that Sega entered into a legal battle with the Jackson estate, because they were only able to squeeze in a few more re-releases of Sonic 3 before they stopped. The final re-release for Sonic 3 would be as part of two collection titles, Sonic Ultimate Genesis Collection in 2009 and the Sonic Classic Collection in 2010. Individually, it would be ported to the Virtual Console for the Nintendo Wii system in September 2007 and to Xbox Live in June 2009. But do yourself a favor and don't even think about touching Sonic 3 on Xbox Live. I don't know what Backbone Entertainment did with the audio files, but whatever it was horrible. My eardrums haven't recovered from that atrocity. And finally, Sonic 3 would be given a re-release on Steam in January 2011. And after that, that was pretty much the end of the line for Sonic 3. As an aside, the Sega Genesis Mini released 2 years ago. As the name suggests, it is a miniature version of the original Genesis, or the Mega Drive as everyone else will know it, that contained up to 40 titles from the Genesis library. Guess which game was absent from that lineup? You got it, Sonic 3. And when At Games, a company that was briefly involved with the development of the product, was questioned on why that is, it was said to be due to licensing problems with the soundtrack, which you might have already guessed by now. That exact same obstacle would also prevent Christian Whitehead from proceeding with a mobile remaster of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which would have been released for iOS and Android had it been greenlighted by Sega. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Had it been though, it would have been developed using the Retro Engine, the exact same framework that was used to make the mobile remakes of Sonic 1 and 2. The problem persisted for years, and eventually we pretty much resigned ourselves to the idea that Sonic 3 would forever be held down by its legal constraints. But apparently something finally shifted in Sega's favor because the game is coming back, and in widescreen no less. Rejoice, Sonic 3 fans, our patience, our persistence, our dedication has finally been rewarded. As someone whose entry into the Sonic series stems back to the classic era, it was deeply frustrating to see Sega seemingly determined to avoid acknowledging the existence of their best classic game for the past decade. The most they ever did was make subtle nods towards it by including the Sky Sanctuary and Mushroom Hill zones in Sonic Generations. And then in Sonic Mania, we got 3 stages in Sonic 3: Hydro City, Lava Reef, and Flying Battery. So what finally changed? Well, the official story on that has yet to come out, but I'd be willing to suspect that Sega and the Jackson estate finally came to a compromise over the re-release of Sonic 3, and that compromise involved omitting all soundtracks that were contributed by Michael Jackson, instead replacing it with the beta music that was originally intended for the game. Such a prediction would fall closely in line with the information that was disclosed by the leaker Zippo, who first revealed back in April that Sonic 3 would be returning as part of a collection title. And I mean, with Sega's apparent struggles in trying to re-release the game for the past decade, it's the only story that really makes sense. As for the beta soundtrack, here's an interesting tidbit. Back in 1997, Sonic 3 and Knuckles was re-released as a collection title for PC users. It marked the second official re-release of the game, by the way. The very first one would be as part of the compilation title Sonic Jam, which came out with Sega Saturn that very same year. The Saturn is a console whose existence I typically tend to forget about, seeing as I never owned one myself, mainly because I'd never heard of it. But as a 6 or 7-year-old who didn't really know any better at the time, how could I have? By the way, this is where I need to take an opportunity to correct myself for something I said in a previous upload. I initially thought that Sonic 3 had been bundled in with 3 collection titles in total, but as it turns out the actual number was 5. First there was Sonic Jam from the Sega Saturn. Then there was the Sonic and Knuckles collection, the second official re-release of Sonic 3 as a collection pack for Windows users. Then there was Sonic Mega Collection, as well as the Mega Collection Plus expansion pack that came out 2 years after the original. And finally, the Ultimate Genesis Collection and the Classic Collection that was referenced earlier. So to anybody mildly confused about the actual number of times Sonic 3 was re-released, my bad. Anyway, back to the Sonic and Knuckles collection. It's the first and only known instance where the beta soundtrack was used for Sonic 3 instead of the original. To be even more specific, the beta soundtrack primarily affects the Ice Cap, Carnival Night, and Launch Bay stages. Everything else is virtually the same, just remixed for the purposes of the PC version. As for the visuals, they are 100% identical to their Genesis counterpart. As for why the soundtrack was switched up, no idea. It's possible that there may have already been legal disputes going on between Jackson and Sega after he disassociated himself from the project, but seeing as he chose to remain uncredited, I'm not too sure how likely this is. Either way, the knowledge of what Sonic 3's soundtrack would have been like without Jackson's involvement is pretty fascinating in and of itself. However, with the inevitable change coming up with Sonic 3's soundtrack in time for its re-release next year, I don't think it's going to sit over well with everybody, and understandably so. When you spent your childhood playing Sonic 3 with the original soundtrack, changes to it are going to feel very jarring, even if it will affect only 3 stages at best as far as I can tell. Now, if you're already familiar with the beta soundtrack, it shouldn't bother you as much. So to those not looking forward to these changes, I feel your pain. However, I do think it's a price that had to be paid in order for Sonic 3 to finally see the light of day again, something we've wanted for a very long time. And with newer Sonic fans coming our way thanks to the Sonic movie, giving them an opportunity to play one of Sonic's greatest classic titles is imperative. And more than likely, it's a move that will yield impressive results. Because according to Takashi Iizuka in a recent interview that was released on Sonic's 30th birthday, Sonic Mania was made primarily with the classic fans in mind, and they were not expecting so many of the newer generation who didn't grow up playing the classic titles to have enjoyed Mania so much. Now put Sonic 3 into the equation and imagine what their reactions will be like. I hope someone out there is ready to make a compilation of everybody's first time reactions to Sonic Origins, particularly Sonic 3. And now comes the question, just what will a widescreen re-release of Sonic 3 look like in 2022, along with the rest of the classic titles? Looking at the fan project Sonic 3 AIR or Angel Island Revisited, a widescreen reframing of the original game complete with additional features, I think we have some pretty good insight on what widescreen Sonic 3 will look like. But then, this is Sega, anything can happen. After all, for whatever reason, they decided not to use the template for the Retro Engine remakes when they re-released Sonic 1 and 2 on Nintendo consoles, specifically the 3DS and the Switch. Instead, they fell back to emulation. In the case of the 3DS, I guess it was understandable, but for the Switch, not entirely. Also, other than the Steam release of Sonic CD, the Retro Engine remakes weren't exactly designed with anything other than mobile platforms in mind, so I don't believe that will be the framework Sega goes with when making Sonic Origins. So if not that, I have to wonder what else they will pull out of their sleeve. In case you haven't realized it by now, the fact that these games are being re-released in widescreen means that they will not run off emulation in Sonic Origins, unlike a majority of their past re-releases. In other words, just like Sonic Colors, the Sonic Classics are getting remastered or remade, whichever term you want to use. Seeing as up until now I've been referring to a 2013 remake as, well, remake. Although a term remaster would probably fit them better given how they were approached. So no guys, this won't just be another typical repackaging of the Sonic Classics. It's going to be so much more than that. But how much more? We won't know until at least the next year. So to close all of this out, you guys might be wondering just how I feel about all of this. And the answer is, beyond excited! As somebody who entered into the Sonic series through the classic era, seeing these games still thriving 30 years later is significant. It was good to see my favorite classic title in Sonic CD still getting re-releases here and there, but it was always a shame to see Sonic 3 not given a similar treatment, and initially I thought that Sega was that determined to avoid comparison to Dragon Ball because, you know, Super Sonic and the Chaos Emeralds, or that they just lost all care for the game. I am glad to have been proven wrong in this regard. They were definitely trying for the better part of the last decade to get it re-released, and simply couldn't pull it off up until now. So this is where I apologize to Sega for having my doubts, and where I also thank them for continuing to put forth effort to get the game re-released. I can promise you this, a lot of people are going to enjoy this collection of games so very much. And for once, we'll get a lineup of remasters that are not mobile exclusive. Not that I ever minded them coming to mobile platforms in the first place, it just never made any sense not to have them on consoles either. But at the very least, they're fixing this mistake, and that's part of what counts. And better yet, Sonic 3 isn't getting left out of the festivities for a change. That's part of what makes it even better. And should the Sonic Origins compilation turn out faulty for whatever reason, at the very least we'll have a suitable alternative in Sonic 3 Air to fall back on. So we've really nothing to lose here, but so much to gain. I believe that about does it for this video guys, so thank you all so much for watching. I put a lot of work into this one, so hopefully it turned out great. And if it did, let me know your feedback with that like button and the comments down below. If you want to keep up my content, just hit that sub button and ring that bell so y'all don't miss out on anything at all. And also, let me ask you all, which Sonic game are you looking forward to replaying the most when Sonic Origins comes out? Is it Sonic 3? Or another game entirely? For me, that's CD, but I'm especially intrigued to see what happens with Sonic 3 now that it's coming back, so that's definitely high up on my list as well. Let me know in the comments below which Sonic game you're looking forward to revisiting the most. And yeah guys, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time. Take care, and don't forget, blue blurs for life. See y'all later.